There we go. We're up and running now.
Hello. Hopefully
Hello.
people can see us and hear us.
Give it a bit. People will start pouring in.
Ooh.
I'm glad I got it set up, working.
It's art stream anyway. I can do this. We'll do a little bit of inspector things here. Sorry, we're a little bit late on the streaming. We were distracted working on tutorial stuff. So good reason. Here we go.
Your name tag look a little scrungled? I don't know. I got name tags off. It looks fine to me.
Oh yeah.
It's out
Maybe it's
of
because
like
of the water.
Tetris blocks.
Oh, for ages, yeah.
Or something like
might...
Tetris blocks. It's a font I wanted to mess around with. It's literally called Two Slice, and it's like literally just 2 pixels tall.
That's kind of cool. Pool. Pool. We are in the pool. It is pool day.
Yes.
Bapper always says hey hey, and I always think about the there's a YouTuber named Seth. Oh my gosh.
Oh.
Whoa.
Thanks for the subscription, Baplar. And for those tuning in, if you are asking questions, please put a question mark at the end. Therefore, it will be marked as a question in the Twitch chat that we got in.
There's a YouTuber that always starts off their videos with "Hey hey people," and I always think of that one when Baffler says "Hey hey." Hey hey people. Baffler here.
Because I think this is it right here. This orb is the LUT. So something we were doing before we started was talking about like LUTs and adding them to the camera to make it do
Add it to this one.
effects. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that's
put it on
super
the
like
there.
contrasty.
Well, that's what
No,
it's.
that's... Yeah.
Is that the one?
Oh, you know what? It's not the material itself. It's this, I think, that I need.
Is it?
Let's see here.
You took the habit from a video game character? Which video game character?
There we go.
Ah, there we go. Without it, with it.
Ooh, extra contrast. Ooh.
Ooh. Makes everything look really tropical, and I like it for some of the maps like this with like all the green colors.
The world is in sepia. I just have to do that.
Which actually, you know what? Something that we should probably explain as well is the default cameras. If you press the filter button and then the LUT button, there's this little field at the bottom, and if you drag and drop a LUT into that field, it'll just apply it to the camera face, and you can save it like that. And we actually do have a folder with a ton of LUTs that you can use for different like things. If you're making any kind of media or any like videos, you want a specific color, you can just like add it through there. It makes for some really cool screenshots as well.
LUT under streaming camera. Yeah, I should start using more LUTs.
They're fun.
LUTs are fun.
I've taken some pictures with the Resonite like in-game camera using a LUT that people thought were just like straight up renders. if you got a good reflection probe in there and all that, yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, we already have some questions here too. First one is from Virtual Core, because I noticed it was a question, hence why I reminded folks add a question mark at the end. When will we see the dawn realized? And what they mean is the kind of hub world area. That is one of the projects that we want to tackle essentially after the tutorial. That is a big project in and of itself.
Oh yeah.
And as Rue explained as we first started here too, one of the reasons why we're kind of a little bit late, we're actually in the midst of working on the tutorial itself. And now with how some others on the team do their office hours, might be best for us to kind of shift it over 1 hour, depending on how things go.
Yep.
So we'll
If we
definitely
change
keep.
times, we'll let people know.
Yes, I'll let you folks know if we do.
But we were working on the narrative experience version of the tutorial, and we can't say too much about it yet because we want to make sure we get feedback at the right time. But what we did do, and just to let people know, we took in all the feedback that we've been given like over the last few years and consolidated it, and we're building it with that knowledge. So a lot of the pain points that people may have brought up with the original tutorial and even some past ones, we definitely took those pieces of feedback into account and are using those to make the new version. And once we have something that's a little bit easier to share, we'll go ahead and start letting people in there, gather some more feedback on that, and then we'll see what else we need to do going forward. But it's going well. It just takes a lot of time, and we've been busy on it.
It's very cool though.
Yeah. As for those not knowing what the Dawn is, it's this structure that's in the background of the default skybox. It's kind of like a large floating structure with sails on it and two beams of light emitting from it.
Always reminds me of like a futuristic version of like Aincrad.
What was that from?
SAO, Sword Art
Ah,
Online.
okay. Yeah, the
It
floating
was the
castle
giant
thing.
floating castle. Yeah, it had like 100 something floors. It was a lot bigger though. The thing was like planet sized, but yeah. Let's see what we got. Another question in there, or a couple actually. Oh, what does this button do?
I mean, judging by the text above it, yeah, you knew exactly what you what you were doing in there, and
Why,
thank
thank you.
you. Now, here's another one from Computer User, which I'll put it up here. Let's see. I remember Fuchs mentioning that there's some feature that was removed from later Unity VR renderers that would be the incentivizing updating the renderer. I think it was single pass instead of stereo rendering, but I'm not 100% sure. Do you know what I'm talking about? And if so, do you know the actual name for it? I don't know the name for it, but I sort of know why we're not updating like the render is because some of those features that were removed would break content, pretty much any kind of content in here visually currently, and that is why um, we're wanting to move to a brand new renderer in the first place that has both the feature parity that we have now with everything that's in here while also being able to be expanded upon. And having the yeah, having stuff updated on what we have now would further delay the process of switching to a new one. That is why yeah, we're looking there's a whole process on GitHub for getting us on a new rendering engine. But this question is probably better for Tuesdays office hours with Prime and Sundays with Cyro and Fruix.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. I do know there is an important thing too that actually let me open up the Discord
Unity's been
here.
doing a bunch of stuff with their rendering that is just I don't know.
And business.
Yeah. So it'll be nice once we have a little bit more control over it. Plus, I want to see if I can get someone to make a flow lead shader so we can actually do some fun stuff. Imagine
Yeah.
Water
if we can get to the
shader.
point. Yeah, but like even more than water, I want a foliage thing because like being able to, or I should more say a scatter shader, where you can take an arbitrary mesh and scatter it based on like a noise texture over another mesh, similar to like how scatter works in Blender. If we could get something like that in here, you could do all kinds of things.
There we go. Got it. Something that would help showcase like this recent announcement in the announcements channel of Discord. Brooks is going to be basically open sourcing the render side of Resonite, what Unity is doing. So it would help
Sure,
with.
I'm scared.
Yes, that's what I'm using to get the stuff from Discord. So yeah. But
Do you
essentially,
still
it's
have your system sound set on that?
at the moment, yeah. I think there is an
Uh,
open GitHub issue on just getting Resonite's sound, but that's so far what I have to do. It's because the separation between the program itself and Resonite running, or
the
render
yeah.
and Resonite itself, Fruit's engine running simultaneously is how it works. Eventually, once like we get an update for that, that'll fix it.
Yeah.
One
Yeah.
day.
I recommend using ShareX if you want to make screenshots on your computer. It's pretty good.
Yes.
Before I forget, uh, essentially the announcement is about CTAA, and that's a type of anti-aliasing, a way that your view gets rid of, in like a camera in a 3D space or whatnot, gets rid of like sharp edges as much as it can. And that's just like one of the methods that isn't open source. And like from reading the GitHub issue, it's like outdated. The company that made it no longer is around, and it's likely abandonware, but the license is still up in the air. So it was a survey on like which kind of like way to go from there. Was to keep it and make like a alternative that replicates it or mimics it, or just remove it entirely, because there's plenty of other options there. And it'll be a good thing to kind of poke Fruits about at their office hours as well. But it will be removed after like getting all the feedback. That's pretty much the consensus there. Which would mean the Unity renderer side is going to be open source so that people can see it and potentially help with things there. Not just, looking at like how potentially to get Resonite off of Unity, but also to fix features within here or add features that wouldn't be hard to add for like a Switch. Now, going to the next question here from Grand UK. Would you see any benefit to a button component that sets a dynamic variable's value and can create it if not exists?
I mean, one thing I'll say about that is that it's technically not necessary because we already have protoflux components that can do that, and it would be kind of redundant. It would make it a little bit easier, I guess, when creating something, but they basically function the same way, protoflux components. So you would just need to like throw two components in there and you're done for that kind of functionality.
Like the question also is a little bit confusing, because like setting a variable, like what kind of value are you talking about? Are you talking about
you
like...
have the button value set like dynamic variable stuff. So if you go into like empty object and you can do button value set.
Oh, yeah, because like you can set the value, because a dynamic variable, or yeah, dynamic value variable works like a regular value. It's just when you're using a button component that writes to it, you'd have to directly point to it. And also, if you directly point to it, and if other places have that variable connected to it, or within the same space, it would update all those automatically. That's one way of doing it. But if you're talking about like a button component that basically works as like a dynamic impulse in a way with a variable or dynamic variable impulse.
We have dynamic impulse button components already. They are in. I'm trying to remember. I think it's in common UI button interactions. Yeah, dynamic impulse trigger with values.
Those are dynamic impulses, but values are a bit different. So
Yeah.
like say dynamic impulse is like a impulse that goes through, but like a dynamic variable, so that would be like data like setting these,
Yeah.
but there's no like thing for that. Then if that is the case, then I recommend GitHub issue.
I think there is. I just don't remember where it's at. Because I swear I've seen it before. I'll see if I can find it.
If you do, we can spot it in here. If not, I highly recommend checking if there's a GitHub issue.
If only we had the component searcher.
Okay, I'm getting the flaming text.
Well, it's like Ravi's working on the component searcher, remember?
Yeah, and protoflux search. There we go. There we go. I'm gonna just put this here. And then put it up here so I can just drag it in for an answer just in case.
One of these components had a like a dynamic folder. I can't remember where that was.
Another quick question from Grand UK. Is that decoy?
Where?
Where?
That do be a bird.
Where?
Where? Let's see here.
Where they at? Where they at?
Deselect. Find the bird. Thing.
Find the bird in this image.
What is your avatar again?
This one, Dromio Worm.
Dromio Worm.
By Corvid Curse.
Ah.
Worm is in like dragon, or worm is in like worm?
Both? Well, that's the WYRM is how it's spelled. Here's the actual
that's
link
like
to the avatar. Well, kind of, I suppose.
That's like the dragon worm. Worm rather than like
Weird.
the scrunkly worm.
Like wyvern.
It's also almost shaped like a worm at the same time, though, so you know.
Did they also make a worm
dragons
avatar?
Are just scaly worms, aren't they?
Kind of. Not. You're right. You're right.
What the wait? So then, like, birds are just feathery worms, and then dogs are like fluffy worms.
I think we've lost the plot.
I don't know what we're talking. Here's a question relative to this conversation.
Yes, we love everyone.
Especially the one with the googly eyes and like the little string you pull and like
I like those little things. Those are funny.
Worm off the string.
There is an avatar literally based off of that. Is it made by the same avatar maker?
I don't... Possibly. Maybe. I'm not sure. They made an earlier version of this a long time ago. So that actually might also be it. I don't think they sell it anymore, though.
I hate whenever I remember something and I can't like find it afterwards. It's okay. That's why we're making it easier to find these things in the future.
We'll get there.
Yeah. I don't know where it is, but I'm pretty sure there are button like set components for dynamic values for the actual button components themselves. It's not like a protoflux node. I believe it's a regular component. I just can't remember where they're at. I specifically remember a folder that was like called dynamic, but it's not the one that's in data. Because these were button specific, like action triggers. So they're probably in UI actually.
Ooh, maybe.
What do we got
remember
here?
if there
No more
was
questions yet? Oh yeah, if
not
people
yet.
have questions, make sure to put a question mark at the end.
Ask
That way it pops up over
questions.
here.
Ask art questions. Content team questions.
General
question mark.
Resonite questions are also welcome too.
Let me look at the chat a little bit just to make sure we didn't miss any. I'll scroll in. Oh, now I can go up.
Ah,
Yeah, I don't think we missed anything. At least not right now. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, if people have like questions on like even if it's part of the tutorial, we can answer some questions on that. We can't go into like too many specifics because we just need to make sure we get feedback at the right point of it. Because right now there's
Yeah.
not much to get feedback on. Like we're just talking about flows at the moment.
yeah, like I'm gonna be like also uploading the few previous office hours as well, in all three of them, including this one, to the new channel that we made. By the way, people don't know there is a second Resonite YouTube channel now that is just for the stream VODs. So that way it's a bit more organized there. And yeah, with the tutorial itself, we've been going through kind of like doing still the early stages of blockouts and stuff like that. And I've spoken about the kind of flow, what it's going to be covering, and that it's going to be a narrative stuff, and, well, multiple different environments that people will be able to go through. And user and choice. User choice is going to be important after the very basics. So, yeah. Everything else, the lore, the narrative side, what's going to be in it visually, that's up until when we actually are able to show it more. We now have questions now too.
By the way, I believe those parent to you once you grab them, so you don't have to like hold it.
Oh, they do. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
For those wondering where we are, I should explain that a little bit. This is the water park map. It's literally just called water park. It's something I made a little while ago. Eventually, I'll get around to updating a few of the things in it. I'm gonna make it look a little nicer in a few places. We've just been busy on a bunch of other projects.
Yeah, like two of the things that
there's a lazy river, and it works.
We can go on it in a bit.
Lazy River, I remember that.
Yeah. Let's see here. First question here again. Is there an easy way to check if an object is visible or not? The best idea I've got so far is to use a raycast, but that wouldn't work with any translucent surfaces. That would probably need something like component access or adding a variable on that object to communicate with other things. How to detect if an object is visible or not. It also
like visible as in
your field of view.
You can see it rendering, or visible as in it's actually viewable in component. Because like in component, that would refer to like its active state and whether or not that's toggled, because that would make it visible or not visible. But you also have the version of that that's on like if I get a cube 3D model box, and we got the right here, the mesh renderer, you can just turn that on and off, which it's still there, and you still grab it. Like I have this cube here, but it's invisible. There's a couple of different ways to like interpret that, so I'm not sure which one they mean.
Yeah.
Back on.
That might be a good question to bring up in like Prime's office hours as well too.
You can, if you're talking about like in terms of rendering, you can assume that anything within the frustum of your view is rendered, even if it's being included by something. Especially like if its bounding box is within that frustum, and you can visualize that by adding like a frustum to your viewpoint. that everything within that cone is rendered and visible, even if it's behind stuff.
Once we have things like occlusion culling on a newer or different renderer, that is where that'll change as well. Where as as it's called occlusion culling, if something's behind another object and you can't see it, it would not render that object.
You can try to manually make your own version of that by just like checking whether or not, and I guess this might be actually what the question is about. To like check whether or not the person can actually see the object, or if it's being occluded by something, turn it off.
Yeah, by making culling zones via colliders, mathematics, or spatial variables. There we go.
Yeah.
Do you have this question from Kulza? Do you have a performance target you're trying to hit with the tutorial / new worlds? So, with the tutorial, we want to make it. We're going to basically build it in a way where it's visually really nice and like basically a hook for the user, while also then going into like an optimization phase, tailoring it for at least like most common PC VR builds, at least for now.
Yeah.
If we can
I think
go,
a lot of what we're gonna, huh?
if we can go less, it would probably be when we have things like the new renderer and a lot more features to help, like create like more optimized but also fancier effects for cheap.
Yeah. We basically wanted to run as well as it can on like a mid-range computer that is running like a mid-range headset. So that'd be like some of the Quest headsets that require like an actual PC to run, not like the mobile ones. Um, if it can run well on that, then it should run well on both the high end and say for like people in desktop because they're gonna have a lot less rendering to do.
It'd be cool to test it on the Steam machine whenever it comes out too.
Yeah.
Uh,
We are thinking about performance, but we also want to come at it from the angle of like, we really want to show what Resonite can do, and we want to showcase some of the things that you can only do in here, and naturally that's going to require some performance. So that's how we're basically going to balance it out. We're going to make the thing look fun first. We're going to put in some like fun things to do in the tutorial because it's not only going to be like, you know, here's how you do this and here's how you do that. We want to gamify it. And without going into too much of it, but it's going to be like you're going to go through and learn things without realizing that you're being taught those things, if that makes sense. Like, think about Portal. You know, it didn't quite explicitly tell you how to do a few things. It gave you some goals, and you just went and did them. And in the process of doing those things, you learned game mechanics. And we want to make at least the initial part of it like that. So this is the one that we're talking about right now is the one that people are going to load into when they first like open Resonite, and that's its goal is basically going to be, here's a new user, let's teach them how to move and save things and go see their friends. That's not all that's going to be in the tutorial, but that's what's going to be like required for them to go through in order to go and do things. And it's not going to be like too long, so if people are worried about it being like, you know, like a forced, you have to do these things. We're just showing the person or the user like how to exist here, and you know, be able to function. And then we're leaving it up to them whether or not they want to go further into a tutorial and learn more in-depth stuff. The initial part of it's going to be just fun, kind of gamified, and hopefully get them up and running and hooked.
one thing I wanted to mention earlier too is also when we work on a update to the Cloud Home and a few other things. One of the things we wanted to do, hopefully, like ideally, is having a feature to be able to have the choice of like what kind of Cloud Home you want. Say you go through and you pick through different Cloud Homes you have, and we want to make it like say a smaller optimized one that people can just load really quick, be like a nice little like landing place for people to go through and go to different worlds, or like a more fancified version of one, or even like recreating some of the original ideas that we had for the cloud home, whether it be an island that you can explore or like a multi-story building, and that was like one of the things we had to cut too was like the verticality of that, because when you're dealing with like for example a ramp or a like a ramp that goes around or like a circular ramp, stairs or elevators, it can get confusing for new users, especially when they're using teleport or snap turning. Because if we're going around
Yeah,
like a circular ramp that wraps around like a pillar, you have to teleport, snap turn, teleport, snap turn, and the snap turning might not have the right angle you're looking for. And yeah, it gets annoying when you do that. But if people want that option, they should have that option, I think, too. Or we can like not limit ourselves with all the stuff that we make, but we have things where we keep those things in mind. And that's the same
yeah,
thing with the tutorial itself. For example, in the very start of the beginning tutorial, say it tells you how to walk, run, or teleport. It'll pretty much give the user a choice of how to do that. Same with like snap turning versus smooth. And then later on, when they get to choose what they want to learn, one of the places is going to teach them how to do the different like locomotions, including things like zero G, uh, like grab world, no clip, fly locomotion. There's going to be people that are vertical or motion, uh, like sickness prone in VR. They don't have
yeah.
to do that stuff. They can literally even skip those sections within that like tutorial part too. Or there
We even
be
talked about the ability to set up the tutorial in a way where, depending on those options they have chosen, um, we can leverage the power of Resonite to dynamically change the tutorial, right? So we can have a basic flow set up, and then if the user indicates at the start of it that, like, they have motion sickness by choosing some of the options that lessen motion sickness in VR or in desktop, then we can automatically set up the tutorial world in the background to lessen their amount of movement needed to complete it, or make some of the visual effects like less. We can just kind of inference some of that based on their initial choices. Um, the other thing we want to do is make Resonite accessible. So you might have seen, like, in the GitHub, um, we've been making a bunch of GitHub issues related to accessibility. Uh, Things like options for color blindness modes, text size,
scaling things
like,
with one hand or
yeah,
uh,
one-handed use.
scaling. Well, actually, there's two different types of scaling. Scaling objects, like I just did with this, and scaling yourself.
Yeah.
Being able to do that one-handed would help significantly.
So if
Controller.
you know someone or have any, like, issues with accessibility in Resonite, make sure to take a look at those GitHub issues and provide your feedback on them, or ask how they might help you, or like provide feedback. Be like, yes, this option would help me do this specifically, or if we could get this accessibility option, it would help us out a lot. You know,
Especially if it's something we have not thought about before, because
yeah.
then we can just add it and consider that when designing these experiences or
The other thing that's
features
really
of the
good for
platform
feedback,
itself.
the other form of, like, really good feedback that I've gotten recently is there have been some users who have made their own solutions for their version of an accessibility issue. Like, someone was mentioning they had made their own single-handed scaling options, and they described, like, oh, they just grab their chest and pull up and down to scale themselves, and that's really good because then it gives us, like, reference for how we could implement that as something that we could use for that accessibility option. And the more feedback we get, we can see, like, oh, which one of these is a good option that people are already doing in order to solve those issues, rather than having to reinvent the wheel. If that makes sense.
And like, actually, you pretty much already said what I was gonna say, so yeah, you're
Mm-hmm.
good. Yeah. Hopping into the next question here from Baplar. Will there be in-game previews of the tutorial world before it's turned into the default for new players? There will probably be, yeah, likely previews. Actually,
I mean, yeah,
probably
we're
a
gonna get
trailer
feedback
at
on
that
it.
point too, to kind of tease what it looks like too, as well as getting feedback from like mentor leads and such.
Yeah. We want it to be fun, even for people who have like who already know what they're doing. Like it should be something that when a new user or an existing user goes in there, they have a good time no matter what. And we've even talked about like adding things that people can customize and save inside there as kind of like, oh, I did the tutorial and I got to get this little memento for it. So yeah.
Yeah. And to go over Baplar's question here, would you consider pushing the localization strings to the locale GitHub repo in advance of the tutorial's release so that contributors can start working on translations before the big release? There will probably be a
For
point in
sure.
time before release and during, like, say, the whole script is done, and we can just have, like, all the stuff that is already done just placed out there that we know for sure that is going to be in the tutorial ahead of time. And then we can just notify folks if we do change anything last minute or second. Because, well, I wouldn't be surprised if there's like, oh, there's a new feature that came in and we have to change or add things to the tutorial at the time. And it's going to be built in a modular way too to make it easy to update over time. So we're kind of taking our time a bit with this one, but
Yeah.
with what we're working on with those on the media and marketing, we're making video tutorials to like accommodate it as well to be like complementary for it, whether it be in the help tab or externally like on YouTube and such. Having those in place in addition will not only help us in like a I forgot like not exactly a temporary solution, but like a way to help users while we get to the road to while we're on the
Yeah.
road to that new tutorial.
I mean, the other thing we have going for us is that like the previously translated things, they're still going to be useful because those are going to be like concepts and like actions that uh don't need to be translated again. Like we could just reuse some of those strings. Um, but the new tutorial is going to be less text based by far. Um,
The
like
narrative
we'll still
one.
have text. Yeah, the narrative one. We'll still have text in places where, so that people who like have issues with hearing can understand like what's going on. But for the most part, it's going to be less like describing how to do something to the player and either showing them or just setting up the tutorial in a way where that action, whatever it is intuitive. So like instead of having to tell someone to sprint somewhere, or to like walk up a ledge or something, we'll just provide like a goal for them to reach, and then them getting there will teach them that skill.
Yeah. And having these additional things would, help users, whether they're inside of Resonite or externally, with,
Yeah.
say, videos on YouTube or streams on Twitch, that we go over things like that in the future.
And when we say narrative, we do mean like there's we can't go too much into it, but there's gonna be a narration to it, either by like interacting with a thing in there. It's not gonna be like just a nebulous narration like being said, but there'll be like some guidance to it, and hopefully people will enjoy that, and we'll try to make it somewhat humorous as well, kind of
My
lighthearted.
only answer for the gloopy lore is everything is canon, but that's Resonite's lore as well. So it's underneath it in a way.
Well, we could go over the gloopy lore that created the gloopy.
It's this type of particle.
Because when we were talking about like the shape of the icon and stuff like that,
Oh, you mean how it became to be, like, as the design?
yeah, because like one of the things that we did was look at electrons and orbitals and stuff. And at one point, I grabbed an image that was like a bunch of different orbitals, and we ended up using that one to kind of base the initial designs off of. I believe it was like a helium. Was it helium? It was
Fuchs
either helium or
also
hydrogen.
grabbed an image as well and was like, we wanted like, what was it, like 6 different parts of it, and it ended up becoming one of them, but it's technically not the same exact thing because it's also in 3D.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, I also talked about, Fruix also talked about it in a previous stream as well, too. But I'm gonna try to look for in our folder of like the, okay, here is a prototype version of it. And mainly it was to see, because electron orbitals are not like 2D things on like a flat plane. It's 3D. And with 3D objects, as you move it around, it changes its shape to your viewpoint. So I'm like, oh yeah, we can just use that to our advantage to design a logo. Maybe something like this, or something like this, or, you know. And from that,
it was interesting how much like the whole team was just kind of like set up in making this logo, or like the concept of it as well.
If I
We pretty
had
much all worked on it like together.
images on hand, but I can show you the very earliest versions of the modern one.
Yeah.
Yep. This is what we started out with like the most modern version of it. And then it got its gradient. Because Chroma was messing around with colors and all that. And if you move it to a certain angle, looks exactly like that. The original like color scheme was kind of inspired off of like a gizmo, or like, you know, colors that like computer graphics would have, where it's like RGB and cyan, magenta, and yellow. So we had like a whole thing where it's like cyan, magenta, and yellow as like the logo design as well too. But we kind of stuck with a full rainbow spectrum. Because with Fruix, he probably described it in the past too in some of his streams, but he likes to hide rainbows and things. So, well, he had Chroma put one in the logo itself. Oh, that is a name I haven't seen in a long time. Welcome to the stream, Mark Sparks. Hope you are doing well.
Oh, hi there.
Yeah. Glad to see you around.
We're going over Gloopy lore.
Yes. The lore of the elusive Gloopy.
I was trying to find like where we had talked about it in the Discord, because we had some images from the Electron stuff, and there was even some like renders that I had did way billion years ago.
If I had it on hand, I'd spawn it out right now, but it's gonna take me a bit to like dig for it.
I tried searching for it with like Discord search, but it wouldn't go back that far for some reason.
This could be like
we've
that.
We've also had like 3 different Discords where we discussed like a few of these things, so it could be in any one of them, honestly.
Yeah, and I think one of them doesn't exist anymore too. Yeah. Oh, hey. An old sketch of a Cloud Home logo thing or design. It's like a floating sail ship thing. Found that in the folder. Yeah, I'm gonna have to find it. Yeah. That's good you're doing alright. And, oh yeah, the other question here. In relation to earlier Resonite development, or, well, in this case, Durian, which is the code name for Resonite, Durian lore, well, Fruix had the idea of the name durian, as it's like, it tastes good. It's a fruit that tastes good, but also is very stinky, and people would avoid it. So it's a way to kind of, I guess, mitigate the nosiness. I guess that
Yeah, we were trying to like
pun
hide it, I
intended
think,
in a way.
or like keep it under wraps for a little while, because durian was technically like it was the thing we were trying to set up so that we could make Resonite, but we needed to do it in a way where people couldn't like copyright things right off the bat. So because there are people who will try to like snipe either names or concepts or stuff like that, and if we wanted to like copyright or trademark, say like the name Resonite or the symbol or like the fonts and stuff like that, we had to keep it under wraps because there are people that will try to ransom those things. Unfortunately.
Yeah, that you'd see that in gaming all the time with like code names. People would just make code names for things.
Mm-hmm.
And just like how people are obsessing over what the next Half-Life thing, if there is another Half-Life game, like what the code name is, like HLX or something.
Yeah.
Welcome to the stream, Bong Master. Ah.
I have an update on that, by the way.
Oh yeah, there is an update to Fluxpose.
Yep. So let's read the question first, and then we'll go to it. Because I want to.
So, if you're getting Fluxpose, are you going to get the black ones or the clear transparent shell? Since the order form is up now. Well, first off, the order form is up now,
Yeah, I was
and
gonna say that. They
second
just sent me an email
off,
for it.
I want to get the transparent shell to like match my Babel tracker, because the Babel tracker is transparent as well too. Now, if I could get the Steam frame, it's transparent if it ever comes out, please. I'd get it in transparent because I like that old classic, like early 2000s or 90s electronics look.
You know what? I might as well fill out the form like right now. I
Yeah,
don't know if I'll get the clear ones. I think I might get the dark just plastic ones.
I'm gonna get the clear ones.
So a lot of my stuff in my room is themed like that, and I think it would match.
Mm. Yeah. But yeah, that would answer your question. So, at least each of us will have like one of each. But yeah, I'm probably gonna fill out my order form probably tonight after I upload the rest of the streams to the second YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Actually, I just remembered something with the conversation about like copyright or like IP. The I remember there was a patent on like ray traced sound that expired like I think a couple years now. But games still need to start using that where it would like have sounds more like accurate. Actually, I think there is a game that does it more like advanced. Where I think it was like that Teardown game does it, where it's like a modular sound system that basically is almost like voxel based. Just interesting. Oh yeah, and also Valve recently like destroyed a patent troll as well.
What happened with that one?
So yeah, they can't patent troll them anymore. Let's just say that.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. if any of us honestly get like the Steam frame even before Fergus, I'm just gonna send mine to his. Because, like, knowing it's probably gonna be released in the US first, one of us is gonna have to, like, send it to him. Unless if he's Gabe Newell's shipping, like, them to Europe as well so that they'll release simultaneously in other regions. But, man. At least it'll be, reimbursed.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, the Rothschild trial. That's what it was. Some of the other things that I'm trying to remember if there was anything else that I should probably bring up here. Like I've already mentioned the accessory system in the prior streams about how that's going to be updated with the new features that Fruix has gotten. Can't really think of anything else that is relatively new. So if anybody still has any questions, I'm going to check the time here. We're getting nearly an hour here, at about 8 more minutes. But any and all questions are good. And there is one thing I should probably at least showcase too, is something that I was working on the side. That showcase some of it on a previous stream, where it's like a Tron-like disc where you can throw and it bounces off of walls and can come right back to you. Has a whole bunch of different variables to change, as well as you can change the color, and now even like the different models as well. So hopefully I'm gonna make it like a thing that people can mess around with and make their own kinds of like boomerang like things. Went through the Sauna sound packs to replace them all recently too. So it's pretty much all set except for some bug fixes I gotta do. Because there's some workarounds I have to do with colliders. Say if I... Actually, I don't know if it's gonna try to attach to my arm. Yeah, that's something I'm gonna have to figure out. There is a snapper already on it with a keyword for like thrown disc or throwing disc. Although I'm gonna change the name to probably like uh, thrown object or something generic. And I just realized there's another thing I'm gonna have to add onto this thing, and that is the actual point where the sound gets played. Because I wait, no, that's the camera. That's why it's not playing correctly. Because if I turn off the audio from camera viewpoint, yeah, it's correct. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, a few other things I gotta do, which is like add a custom thumbnail, fix some weird collider issues or workarounds, and it'll be available for people to play around with and make their own stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We do have another question here. And this is about the IK update being the main focus. So, with the IK being worked on next, I feel like that's going to be something that'll alleviate a lot of the problems that people have with their avatars. And I'm not just talking about people that are full body users. Some people have issues with trying to make custom rig setups, whether it be multiple arms, multiple legs, or limbs, wings if like it's a dragon or like some kind of bat, or creatures that have wings or extra tails, and that would have like movable IK would be interesting to see. And like things like even vehicles too would be pretty neat to see. I do want to make a mech because of this update. Be pretty cool to see. I probably want to make it in like a more generic sci-fi style than the Dawn style, just to kind of mess around with it. like some textures I was looking at, but and like a rig that you can just or component that you can be able to put on anything to add IK would be amazing. So, just like how dynamic bones you can put on any object, the IK is going to be something that is not just pertaining to avatars only or like connected to that. So, plus likely the IK itself will be split into different components under that too, for different behaviors, like how the animation for like walking and running and like idle animations for avatars and like desktop are all like modular with like the different parts and parameters you can do. Something like that. If I recall, that's how Fruits is doing the IK, and I recommend checking the GitHub issue on that if you have any like feedback or not, if it doesn't already exist.
Mm-hmm. By the way, Flux Post trackers now incoming.
Oh, nice.
I
Yeah.
actually did end up getting the transparent ones. I think that'd be cool.
Let's see here. We have actually 2 questions from Perpetuance Flux. First one is, have you considered adding a mass parameter that modulates how it moves and bounces so you have heavier and lighter variants with unique movement expression?
I think a lot of these questions
Oh,
would
it's
be better
for...
aimed at like Fruits.
Well,
Or
this one,
is that about the IK?
it's about this, the disc.
Ah.
So, there, actually, I'll just crack this open real quick, just to show you what it does. And I called it the Resonite disc. If those know what I'm referencing, you'll know. And that's an obscure Valve game that I'm referencing here. So I got like the materials here. It's also using a second grab pose, as if you grab it right here, as you can see, it locks the hand in place, but it's to also create like a shield that blocks incoming projectiles or other like discs. Has the same sound effects as my Resonite shield. Figured reuse it. And that's like the same kind of grab pose tech that is in the rifle that I was working on earlier in other streams as well too. But it has variables under here, and I'm going to showcase them. Got initial velocity, like an additional multiplier for when a user is moving, raycast stuff, fallbacks. It's all within here that people can like adjust. There's even a quote-unquote ammo count. So I'm gonna just do that, and it automatically updates the current count. And as you can see, I can throw multiple at a time.
That's fun.
As well as, where's the tracking? So right now it has like a sort of aim assist, or depending on where I'm looking at, even if I'm throwing it backwards, it goes to the point where I'm looking at initially. But there is also yeah, some of those are written. Tracking influence, there we go. Turn that on. Now if I look around, it follows my movement. Now probably by default, I'm gonna put like maybe 1, 2, 5. So it has some tracking. So I can kind of curve it. But it's not based off of mass, it's like velocity purely. But you can change it if you want something that goes heavier. I think there's drag? I don't think I added drag, but you could probably add that. Yeah, it doesn't have drag on this one. But I did add that on the projectile system. I basically stripped down the projectile system so I can create this. But yeah, hopefully that covers that question here. There's like 3 main protoflux. I'm gonna have to update the collider bug fix patch again. Fix a couple of issues. And this is what it looks like when it's shot or thrown as like these crystals that stick out. And of course, like decal templates. And that collider template, that's just for the blocker setup. And you got the context menu options here. Now you can change the color of like the accents or change the different parts of the disc. Eventually, I want to make a game using this, but alas, someday. One day it will be. As well as probably likely a update to the projectile system and the essentials relatively soon again, as I have yet to stop myself from updating that darn thing.
Projects go like that, yeah.
But it's probably gonna not be touched until collections at that point, because I got to that point where if I were to update it more, I would require myself going through workarounds, but I don't want to do that. Our next question here is also from Protogen Flux. Once we have the IK, all we need is an IK or an FK component. Do you know what Frux is Do you know if Frux is considering adding FK to the IK update? That is a good question to ask on Sunday, specifically about this. So
Yeah.
I do not know. You could probably also ask on set GitHub issue as well too.
I don't even know what FK means in this context.
Inverse kinematics and forward kinematics. The the funny thing is, yeah, forward kinematics, as Flux clarified. The IK that we use right now is from a library called Final IK, which the acronym for that would be FIK, which is like FK and IK. Which one is which? I wonder if it does both, but that would be interesting. It's how the chain resolves at the end or the start to end to start or start to end is how Protogen Flux.
I mean, knowing Fruits, they're probably going to have both options. Like, I know they wanted to make a really good system, and I know they're capable of it, especially like if they are given the time to do so. So it'll be nice once they start getting work on. I think the one we have now was a little rushed, but that's fine. We'll end up getting a fix for it, and then people will be able to fix a lot of things with their avatars. I know I'm definitely going to be using some of the options on it to fix my legs.
Well, some of it was like partially updated with. There's two systems here that people tend to get confused. There's the IK system, which is now being worked on, and previously was the procedural animation system that was worked on prior. And that pretty much works well with what it does. It's just a update to the IK would complement it and make it look better.
And another... The issues with my legs are from the actual IK system.
And like another thing too is revisiting the defaults for people to look at and have available for people to update their stuff to when they set up an avatar from the very first time or want to like edit an existing one. When we have this IK update, revisiting those defaults would be a good idea, especially because the defaults will change how IK moves, and that's like, say, your elbows or your knees, like head, or between the head and like the legs, just all that stuff. The stuff that isn't tracked by full body, and full body itself is going to be adjusted as well and updated with this update as well, because it has to be.
Yeah, it's definitely going to help a lot of the full body users. Just in time for the flux pose, right?
Yeah, exactly. We'll definitely have it by then, because they plan on releasing it sometime in the late stage of this year. And like, if Frooks is looking at collections next, as he mentioned in the stream, it would be really good to have that too next, because that would lessen the amount of protoflux that a lot of us creators on a platform have to use. And it would simplify things and allow much more complex things to happen. Imagine things like, for example, the deck of cards in the Resonite Essentials, being able to just have that in a data form instead of like a slot count thing would be really nice. Then I can just make like a template card that has all the different parts of it on it, and it would just like pick, oh, I want to use this part or this part, and then it just, yeah. Yeah. And what else was it? Things like NPCs or like video game AI, not like the LLMs, but like characters that you play with in like games would be more possible with that. Things like a leaderboard system in games where you see like all the scores of people would be so much easier to make with like in a way, almost like a data feed, or things like cycling through a whole bunch of items. Like, say you want to update a specific thing on like the palm trees here or something, and you just update that specifically.
Inventory lists, object groups. You could do inventory systems entirely, attribute systems. What was the prefabs? Yeah, that would help people make prefabs of things. Not like a prefab system like we talked before, but it would help you, in a sense, make prefabs for the world you're working on. Because you could like assign a group of things to a certain collection and then either replace or edit that collection. So, yeah.
I see. You tried to, Flux tried to like type in the name of a website, but accidentally typed in the dot, so it stopped it.
Oh, actually, I wanted to ask chat something.
Or thought it was a
Sometimes
website, but it wasn't.
sometimes Twitch changes like settings. Is it requiring you to be a follower in order to chat in the chat? So I saw that they changed that recently, and if so, we need to make it so that people can just chat even if they're not a follower. That way to get more engagement. I saw some other streamers running into that recently.
That'd be good to know.
Yeah.
It's like,
Because if
we would
if
have
someone joins and they just want to say hi before they follow, they wouldn't even be able to say anything.
enabled or disabled per channel. Alright, so we can probably like poke that with the team, see what their thoughts on that. So
Yeah.
yeah, as I wouldn't want to change anything just in case, at least right away. But yeah, I think this pretty much would be a good
Okay.
note to end the. I see. Yeah, wait. People have to be a follow. Also, hello Satan. We are also about to end the
Yeah,
stream
we'll go down
now.
this one.
We're about over an hour, so yeah. But yeah, let's see here. First off, thank you for tuning into the stream, and depending on, okay, you beat me to it, Rue, but depending on if we stream this the same time or a different time, we will let you know and update the schedules accordingly. And with that in mind, there's also the other office hours that people can tune in. I already mentioned on Sundays, Frooks and Cyro do theirs. Tuesdays, Prime does theirs. Monday, you'll see Decoy again, and Chroma and Rusty usually as well too. As well as usually every first Friday we have our recap streams, and that's where the business office hours are. And there's a
every
few
last Friday.
every
This is the last Friday of the month, right? Oh,
every
I guess
first
no, it's the it's every
first
first Monday.
first Friday
Right,
of the
Friday.
month, unless if we had to like change it because sometimes
I
beginning of
think
the
we
month
used to do the first ones.
we
Or the
usually
last
do,
ones. Yeah.
but
Either way,
yeah,
first Friday of the month. It's
yes.
the previous month.
As well as Rue brought out earlier too, this is our patron and supporters board. It takes the names from both of those locations and updates it every time it gets spawned out, or even live, I think too. And it shows our topmost supporters here. Thank you all for supporting us, and it keeps this place going. Keeps this place being a home for all you folks to make things, to build with it, or to just hang out and have some fun.
Mm-hmm.
And there's plenty more where these come from as well too. But it would be literally a wall of text that would have to scale it the size of like a Star Wars intro.
Also, if you are supporting us via Patreon, consider
Yes.
switching over to the regular subscription. It's gonna help you save money and give us a little bit more out of that back.
Yes. We get much more from our Stripe-based subscription than Patreon. And it could save you money as well too, because of how we set the prices. Whoa.
Thank you for joining us today, and
Have a good
hopefully you'll
one.
have a good day.
Bye bye. There we go. Boop. And